Clash of the Titans 1981 and Clash of the Titans 2010 were both made in the USA. These two films were made in completely different times and were both amazing for the time they were produced. For example, the 1981 version technology was limited, but they used what they had available at the time, like lots of stop animation fight scenes, whereas the 2010 version had much more technology available, including the use of 3D cameras and CGI. Budgets of the film. Both films had considerably higher budgets for their time. The 1981 had $15 million available, and the 2010 version had $125 million. So a massive $110 million difference, which would heavily influence the quality difference between the films. For example, the 2010 film had enough money to create around 1,600 weapons for the film, including swords, daggers, darts, and a blowpipe. The high budget also allowed them to create 40,000 square foot city of Argos. And finally, they had the money to spend 5 months designing the dragon, whereas the 1981 version had around about enough to make some somewhat decent fight scenes for the time in stop animation. Intended audiences. Clash of the Titans 2010 had a PG-13 rating, and Clash of the Titans 1981 had a PG. There are slight differences to the target audience. The original Clash of Titans film aimed for a U classification, because the director Desmond Davis wanted to reach all ages, but instead attained a PG. Whereas the 2010 version got a PG-13 due to high amounts of violence, but not too much that it would gain a 15. Other successful productions at the time that could have impacted this remake. Before Clash of the Titans remake was released in April, earlier in the year, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief was released, which features lots of Greek gods and has a similar theme to Clash of the Titans, and due to getting mixed reviews on the sites like Rotten Tomatoes, the director of Clash of the Titans probably thought that this was a good time to release the film. Social and political issues that were going on at the time. Clash of the Titans 1981, around that time, there was massive conflicts in Rome, which amassed to a bombing in one of their airports and the shooting of the Pope. Around the time of the 2010 version, the story of Clash of the Titans is actually about Sam Worthington, who is the hero, trying to stop a war from starting, and this links into the current fears of war and how we want someone to step up and try and stop the fighting. Reasons for the remake. Louis Leterrier decided to remake the film in his image. He also believed the story needed to be retold and modernised. Originally, he didn't want to make the film. He loved the original, saying to Warner Brothers, "I understand why you're remaking it. It makes sense. It's exciting, but you shouldn't. It's bad. Don't do this." Then after thinking it and reading it over, he had a look at the screenplay and decided to go along with it, which means his decision to remake it the way he did was purely artistic rather than financial. Marketing of each version. The Clash of the Titans 1981 had very limited resources available for their marketing, and the best marketing technique they had was putting the film poster everywhere where people would be, like, on street corners, things like that. Just basically putting the posters everywhere that they might be seen. The Clash of the Titans 2010, on the other hand, obviously there's a lot more technology, so it was released all over online and everything. And 2 months before the release of the film, they gave out loads of movie posters and banners. And then they were actually very clever with Warner Brothers, and they had a very sneaky campaign, which was launched to steal people's attention away from the newly released Kick-Ass film, by placing an ad on the side of Google that every time you searched Kick-Ass to see about the film, anything really about it, a side ad came up for Clash of the Titans saying to go watch it, but Kick-Ass responded by placing an ad beneath the Clash of the Titans ad, saying, "Don't be conned, heroes don't clash, real heroes kick ass, join up now," which is obviously very clever because it uses "they don't clash" from Clash of the Titans. How did production and distribution technology impact on each version. The Clash of the Titans 1981 film technology was very limited and resulted in stop animation fight sequences and low budget sets that had to constantly be reused. And due to, obviously, it did have some sort of distribution because it reached a few of the main countries, like the big capitals, but there were some smaller countries that didn't actually get to view this because the distribution, they couldn't really cover the cost of it. In the 2010 remake of the film, there's very little limitation of distribution and technology, allowing them to achieve outstanding visuals and very few limitations on worldwide distribution, allowing them to actually ultimately bring in a bigger audience. How was news of the remake received by audiences? When the film was announced, people generally thought it was a terrible idea. There was loads of Facebook campaigns and things launched in people's outrage because so many people loved the original, and they generally thought it was a disgraceful idea and that it shouldn't have been remade. And then once the film did come out, you would have expected maybe a few people's minds to be changed, but most of them weren't. Most people just decided to stick with it and still think that it was an absolute monster of a film and really terrible.
Release the Kraken!